Well, we are here. CJ is not.
No CJ.
Yeah. Really shows where he stands. By the way, if you're listening to this in the pod version, you are getting the filter in, which is the 2-minute thing that happens before the pod on YouTube only, because there's no CJ here and I don't have time to cut it out. So this is the bonus.
It's a bonus.
Yep.
So we're talking about the Sixers for the last time this year.
Yeah.
So
yes, have any topics.
Enjoy it, savor it.
Yeah.
There will be no Sixers discussion from here on out.
Yeah. Remember the COVID time? Think about that. We'll bring Sixers Adam back, see if his favorite foods have been updated since then.
I feel like we got in a lot more during the process. I feel like we got into a lot more arguments with people.
With like outsiders?
Yeah, national people.
Oh, yes.
Or like various.
Well,
like I got into a very long email argument, or it might have been DM argument with John Finger at CSN Philly back maybe 12 years ago. And Sixers Adam was texting me and saying he was like, "Oh, I just hope they don't trade out." I won't say who, I guess. This one player, because I just like them. They're like a pleasure to deal with or whatever. And I was like, and now you know how CSN Philly's John Finger felt when he was arguing with me about it 12 years ago.
Well, you remember Hoop Critic, obviously. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And I think what happened was, and I don't think we did this on purpose, but we were around so long and became so like well known within those people. I feel like we're just part of the fabric, and when we're annoying, they just sort of ignore us now, and they just go, oh, that's how they fucking are. Like it's harder for us to bait people now, even though it's not like what we were trying to do. I think they're just triggered by us less.
I think that sports media has declined so much that most people don't exist anymore.
Well, that's also a fair point.
I think we just continuing to hang around like cockroaches.
Yeah. I can't wait till we get an email directly from ChatGPT as AI becomes annoyed with us, specifically artificial intelligence.
We don't read any of those emails on the pod.
Yeah.
So that's our last defense.
Let's do it. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS, and brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. To get your Big Barker dog bed with the free Process Pup patches, go there and enter code FREEPATCHES at checkout. Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of the Process. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, for Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners, go and get engaged. And Kinetic Skateboarding, get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. Oh, sweet relief. Sweet relief. The Philadelphia 76ers season is essentially over, as Joel Embiid is hurt again, reevaluated in 7 to 10 days. So what now? We will explore it today. If you'd like to hear a podcast about a currently successful team with a definitely good future, the new episode of the Draft Council features an entire discussion on the Oklahoma City Thunder, where they are, where they're going, their draft picks to come, so on and so forth. It is hosted by Dan Olinger and Ahmed Jama. You can get it wherever you get your podcast. I mentioned Kinetic Skateboarding, one of the great features about Kinetic, and it's not just for people who skateboard. What I would say, because I don't skateboard at all, I shop at Kinetic all the time, is the sneakers that you will see there that you will not see anywhere else. Now, for most people, I think this means even that, like, if you're not a skateboarder, you might see these in other skate shops, but you're not going to see them in the regular stores you go to. So I was looking today, I always just go to the sneaker section and list by the newest ones, and a brand new selection of Nike Chinoski, I think it's called, which is sort of like a slip-on sort of casual Nike, and it's really cool. And they have a bunch of different colorways there in there. So if you'd like to see sneakers that you're not going to see anywhere else from Nike and New Balance and Vans and all those, Converse, go to kineticskateboarding.com, use code Dave Silver, and if it's your first order, you're going to get 9.1% off. Hold on, I forgot I had to do this with, oh boy, where is it? There it is. Oh, they changed it. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Forever.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who's got a sharp new haircut. That's one Mike Levin. It looks good, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The welcome seemed hostile, not to me, to the listeners.
Oh, really?
Welcome to hell.
It wasn't. Well, it is kind of hostile, as the team has been hostile to us for years. Here is the note sent out by the Philadelphia 76ers on Friday.
Like a little note, just a nice little note.
Little note. Hey, this is no big deal. Just want to let you know. Hey,
no worries. No need to respond, but
Joel Embiid participated in an on-court workout yesterday after missing the last 6 games due to a left foot sprain. While the foot sprain has healed, Embiid experienced an increase in swelling in his left knee following the workout. Yeah. After consulting with team medical staff and external doctors, Embiid will receive treatment in the coming days to address the swelling. As a result, he will be out for the upcoming road trip and reevaluated in approximately 7 to 10 days. And by the way, this coming just after Tim Bontemps said on the NBA Today, here's the quote: I think the next 3 weeks going into that February, we knew this, but like, Bontemps has been pretty Sixersy, I think, for the last 6 months or so. I think the next 3 weeks going into that February 6th trade deadline are really going to define not only this season, but potentially the offseason for the Sixers if these next few weeks do not go well. And frankly, the way this whole season has looked, it's hard to expect it to. This is a team that could see pivoting to looking to focus on trying to keep that top 6 protected first round pick. And here we are. I kind of had a gut feeling we were on the precipice of something, and boy, it's not a great sign that the foot heals and he works out once and the knee swells up. So I don't know, like, luck. Well, I guess what it was is what was your gut feeling when you saw it? Like, what was reaction?
I don't know. I guess I don't know what it was. It was sort of just like, what is your gut feeling when, like, you're on a train and like the tracks are starting to just go disappear, and then you're like, okay, well, that track, then another track disappeared. What was your gut feeling when that particular track disappeared? And I was like, I don't know. It's been like this for a while, I think.
Yeah, put your seatbelt on.
But yeah, it's. I feel sad for Joel. Like I feel sad for Joel. The season is obviously over in so many ways. But I do feel very sad for Joel, and I don't think, from what I've heard, whatever, I don't think it's the kind of situation where if you just sit him for 6 months, 9 months, whatever, then like he'll just come back and be perfect.
No.
It seems like it's just the kind of thing he's got to play on in his body. He's just kind of get used to it without, because his meniscus is gone, right? So
he's had 2 meniscectomies, which means they take away pieces of the meniscus, and that removes cushioning, which they don't say this out loud when they say it's sort of like a chronic condition, but it's basically arthritis. Like it's basically arthritis. So like you can't, I can wave and say that this is true, but like you can't just not. Now, if you don't play basketball, it's going to feel better, but like you can't just not play basketball for a year and then all of a sudden the meniscus does not regenerate and arthritis doesn't like reverse or whatever.
Right.
So, yeah. So just one last line on that. Please. There's also not, because somebody asked me this week, there's also not like a surgery he can have that will, he has this surgery and, oh no, it takes 9 months, but it's better. I think the only thing that we can look back on, and we don't know the specifics of this, is when he had the surgery last season, whether a repair was possible and they chose not to. and did a meniscectomy so he could come back. They don't
Right.
know that until they get in there, but we don't know that answer. Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
So I really just feel sad for him. The season has really been a nightmare from the moment it started. The frustrating thing is that they are, because the Bulls have lost 4 games in a row, still just 1.5 games out of the 10 spot.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bulls are the teams the Bulls have lost to are the Hornets, the Hawks, the Pelicans, and the Kings. So rough.
Sounds like a murderer's row of Sixers teams that beat the Sixers. Actually, Yep.
So yeah, I mean, it just I'm immediately going to what their questions are. What does it mean for this season? How can they try to make this season salvageable? Not in a way that obviously makes a playoff run, because that is gone.
Yep.
But and they should just like factor that in.
Yep.
They shouldn't. It's basically like, if Joel actually does come back in 10 days, they will play him and he will try to play on it. And if he plays and it feels good, then I think they'll continue to play and they'll probably slip into the play-in and stuff. But to me, the only thing the Sixers can control, because I think Embiid is largely and has always been largely in control of what course of action happens injury-wise.
Whether he plays or doesn't play.
Whether he plays and doesn't play, and what
Right.
is conveyed to the public, basically.
Right.
What they can do between now and the trade deadline. And to me, the answer has been clear for a while, but now especially clear as they're about to lose like 13 of their next 15 games. Like, you have to trade everyone you can trade and get something, anything for to reload for next season.
Yes, I agree. I think the things we that are discussable here are future of Joel, just in a loose way, because we really don't know what to do rest of the season, the deadline, and then of course like lottery odds, and how that all works. Everybody knows his top 6 protected, but like what that looks like. And you mentioned just being a game and a half out of the play-in. It's not tanking. Everyone says that, but it's a lot easier to say than to actually do, especially at this point in the season, especially if you are holding on to the 4 core pieces that you assume that they are, at least at this point: Embiid, Paul George, Maxey, and Jared McCain, right?
And that to me is ultimately like, I was thinking about saving this for the future, but like, let's just do it now. Like, this season has been the worst. It has been awful. There's been almost no moments of light. The win over the Celtics on Christmas is really, that's it.
By far. Yeah.
And
a couple of great McCain games.
But like, it's been a bad season for Maxey. It's been a bad offensive season for Paul George, but he still shows that he has a lot left on the defensive end. In a world where like they sign Paul George, they extend Embiid. That's like, to me, that is okay, here's generally a 4-year-ish window where the Sixers will have a chance to go all in and possibly make the playoff run. And obviously all of this is Embiid health dependent. And to me, you just have to get lucky with Embiid's health and hope that it finally works out. I have no insight into that. Maybe they never get lucky and this is all pointless. But in the world of, say there's some stretch over the next 4 years, or now 3 years, that Embiid could be healthy for a playoff run. And now you have like, I don't know, one of those years wasn't going to work. The last 7 years of Sixers basketball, lost in the second round, lost in the second round, lost in the first round, lost in the second round, lost in the second round, lost in the second round, lost in the first round. Like, we've been doing this.
So much worse when you say it like that.
Yeah. We've been doing this and it hasn't worked. So odds are it wasn't, I don't know. I'm like convincing myself that like this season being like a total wash and there not being a playoff run, that either Embiid or us or whoever can get like worked up into a frenzy into and like spend valuable time on this earth, and for them valuable time on their bodies to actually like go for it and play as hard as they can. I'm starting to work myself into like, maybe it's just good that they're taking a year off. And then the next 3 years they go, okay, now we're fresh. Now we're pissed off because we lost last season so badly. We have something to prove. Maxey just signed his big contract. Embiid just signed his big like forever contract. Paul George just signed his last contract of his career, basically. All of them, maybe this year we're like, okay, this is going to work out. Like, here we go. And now next year we'll have to be, okay, that was embarrassing. Our reputations are in the mud. We have to fucking like really commit to it. Revenge season, that kind of thing. And starting a next season with Maxey, McCain, Embiid, Paul George, and Caleb Martin on a very fair contract, that's just like a really good starting place. That's a really, really good starting place. And I know that I sound probably like the most naive little babe in the woods of all time. But this season has been a nightmare, and I'm so happy that it's at least finally like...
Well, finally we know where it's going.
Finally we know where it's going, and the trade deadline is going to happen, and they're going to have to trade like those guys. Yes. And so to me, it's like, okay, fine, great, we're doing that. This season is over for all intents and purposes. Let's commit to next season, and if they can play together and commit and like establish some sort of chemistry, then great. But I'm already in the mind of like they got a huge win on Jared McCain. Maxey was having a bad season anyway. It's not like they're spoiling like a tremendous Maxey season. Paul George wasn't shooting well. Caleb Martin had like a weird shoulder thing. Like, I'm ready for the next season, revenge season.
Wow.
Type of thing. I'm already there.
All-time
I just want to
cope
fast
from
forward.
you. All-time cope. All-time cope. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Well, if our Sixers can't be healthy, maybe your dog can be. You know, that is the most important thing, is keeping your dog healthy, keeping your dog happy. Your dog can't like go to the store and get its own bed, right? Like your dog can't go on the internet and get itself a bed that's going to keep it healthy. It's on you. It's fucking on you. You signed up for it when you got the dog. And the Big Barker dog bed, the essential difference of the Big Barker dog bed, aside from the fact that it looks great, that it holds up forever, is that it keeps your dog healthier because it is a real bed that supports your dog's joints. Dogs develop arthritis just like we do, just like our favorite basketball players do. But if you are sleeping on a bed, on a mattress that supports your joints properly, those things will be pushed off longer and maybe not so severe. Not only just maybe, proven. Penn Vet did a study on the Big Barker dog bed and saw a 17% improvement in joint function, a 20% improvement in pain severity, a 12% reduction in joint stiffness. All that stuff is true. And again, this is on you. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to bigbarker.com and you're going to look and see the huge difference between Big Barker and everything else. Better than what your dog is sleeping on, which might look comfy, but probably looks big and fluffy, which does not support your dog's joints. And you're going to go to checkout and you're going to put in the code FREEPATCHES and you're going to get 2 Process Pup patches, a red, white, and blue one and a black one and a bunch of stickers. And then you're going to send us a picture of your dog on the bed, becomes official Process Pup. But even more important, your dog, once they get used to the Big Barker, you know, it's a little hard to get a dog to sleep somewhere different than it's normally sleeping. I get it. We actually put the Big Barker in our bed for about 2 weeks to get Rebel to sleep on it, but then it worked. Both our dogs, Rebel and Scotchy, sleep on Big Barkers. They're going to be in a better place. And it's not just for big dogs, for small dogs too. Get Barker Jr., little tiny dog, all the way up to the XL for the big dog, different colors, different configurations. I promise you'll be happy with it. A 10-year warranty, or the foam doesn't flatten or they replace it for free. A 1-year at-home trial. If you don't like it, your dog can't get your dog to sleep on it, it's cool. They will give you a full refund and they'll even pay for the UPS to ship it back. It's handmade in the USA. Big Barker dog beds.
Woof.
So before we get to the rest of the Sixers, just want to sort of like drill down on Embiid specifically for a second. I was trying, and I don't want to, I just want to like focus for a second on you just gave the positive outlook on like what this looks like if it never gets better, right? And I was trying to find the most similar situation. The most similar situation I could find is John Wall, a player who went from very effective to injured all the time to a giant contract that never played, right?
Yeah.
Like Wall went from 77 games to 78 games, then to 41, 32, didn't play a whole year, 40, didn't play a whole year, 34, out of the league. And There will have to be a time, and I hope, to your point, like I do hope there is a point in the next few years where we just get lucky at the right time.
Yeah.
But I think there's also going to have to be a point for the Sixers. And again, I feel like it has to be brought up. There's also going to have to be a point in the next few years where they look at it and they say, maybe this isn't ever going to happen. And
we've been saying that for 8 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, but like specifically with Joel, like I don't think it's going to happen next year, but if at the trade deadline next year, he's played 8 games or something, like you do have to consider, could we get something for Paul George? And do we make this pivot now, understanding that this $60 million contract is likely going to be a weight around our necks. He's probably never going to play a substantial number of games. And we're going to have to do this pivot on the fly as we sort of work through this. Now, Daryl has gone through something similar, by the way, in Houston, as Yao's career was cut short due to injuries. He had an owner that wouldn't let him tank. And the Sixers aren't going through another tank, like real tank, real rebuild plan. I don't think over the next few years. No. So like, I think the question for them is when that happens and what it looks like. And I think the signal that they think it's happening is Paul George, right? Because at that point, Embiid basically becomes untradeable unless you attach first round picks to it and so on and so forth. And really, I think the better thing is to see what you could get for Paul George and work around it is my gut. But I don't know. I think it could come as early as next year if he doesn't play, very many games in the first half of the season. I hope that's not the case, but I think it's certainly on the table, Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't consider anything. To me, like you said, either Embiid is playing and we want him here, or he's not playing and his contract is so arduous and long and sizable that they have to attach stuff to get off of it.
Yeah.
And so the idea that like, oh, just trade him and start to tank, it's like, well, then you're tanking for so long because you're also trading those picks.
The picks, right. Yeah.
So I just think I've been saying this for a long time, and I can totally understand why people listening to this would be frustrated by it. But this is still me going down with the ship.
Right.
Like, I just feel like, and maybe if I was a doctor or a knee and foot expert, that I would have alternate opinions. But this is me just going like, medicine has improved since Yao. And Embiid has, they didn't think Embiid was going to play in his career maybe after those first 2 seasons that he missed. And he's had the career he's had, which has been obviously an MVP and a couple runner-ups and stuff. And so I sort of just have to believe that there is a way for him to play that is still, maybe he's not a top 5 player in the league anymore, but surrounded by Maxey McCain and Paul George with a lesser role, a more Tim Duncan-y role, or even like, I just looked up the year that the Spurs drafted Tim Duncan was because David Robinson got hurt, missed almost the whole season.
Yep.
That Joel is the same exact age that David Robinson was then, 30, 31. And getting the chance to draft a top 6 player in this draft to
it
reload
could save the future.
Could totally save the future.
Yeah.
And
I agree with you.
And I think they need to commit to try to getting that if they can. And if you put somebody in there, pick your prospect. Say it's Cooper Flagg. Who knows? Say they win the fucking lottery and it's Cooper fucking Flagg. I mean, Maxey McCain, Paul George, Cooper Flagg, Embiid is crazy. Like that's insane. Like that's a number 1 seed. And you just try to manage Embiid as you can, just like they have. So to me, it's like, obviously not a doctor, very naive about all that stuff, and sort of just hoping / assuming they can figure it out on some level. Saying like, he'll never be healthy. I'm like, well, what do you do with that? I can't do anything with that. So like, to me, it's less pathetic for me to hope that Embiid has healthy stretches with them monitoring his minutes and him playing a little bit more, reserved and all that stuff, than it was as pathetic as all of us were. Maybe you less than me. I was probably more pathetic. They're just assuming that Ben Simmons will eventually learn how to shoot threes at a reasonable clip.
Right. Yeah.
That is, I think, the more pathetic one, where it's like, this person who's never done this thing will suddenly just do what he does in those offseason videos on the court, and it'll be fine. And all he's got to do is shoot it sometimes, the way Matisse shot it, like all that stuff. That was pathetic. And it was pathetic because of him, not because of us. But like, certainly you have to accept people who they are, and he was that guy, and he still is that guy. But Embiid has been healthy. Like, he has done this before.
We mentioned on the other pod, the games played are more than you think they are when you go through his career. Like 65 and 68 and 69. Like, he has done it.
Yes.
Yeah.
If he plays in the 50 to 60 game mark again next season, it's just not unreasonable to think that that's possible. And I hope it is. I hope it is for him. I hope it is for the team. And so now the pivot becomes, because to me, trading Embiid is trading picks with him and making tanking totally unfeasible. You just have to keep holding on to him and hoping that one year you get lucky. And if next year is bad again, then yeah, sure. Then you think about trading Paul George.
Yeah.
And going from there and seeing if you can get a little bit younger, a little bit more athletic, try to build. But I think the trading Embiid part to me is like, what are you trading him for? Who is trading anything for him? What does that mean for the rest of the roster? I think odds are, if you're trading Embiid for, like, I don't know, imagine it's like Julius Randle or Brandon Ingram or something. I'm just making guys up, but like this, like, very flawed Tobias-esque, highly paid, disappointing player. Then you're just like, with that player, with Maxey McCain and Paul, like, you're just like beaming at 500. You were just like directing laser beam,
two
aiming
small
for
guards.
Yeah. And I said the Blazers last time with Maxey McCain, if you build around them. And obviously, yes, the Blazers did go to a conference finals and get blasted. And the Pacers went to a conference finals and got blasted. But like, that happens sometimes. That happens, that there's occasionally a team that makes a run. Doesn't happen in the Sixers.
Right.
Doesn't happen in the Sixers.
Right.
But yeah, obviously, if you're judging teams based on how much further they get than the Sixers, then like everybody would win. Every other team beats the Sixers because we haven't done shit. So to me, the pick becomes, can you drop, and this is something that Mike O'Connor tweeted, can you negotiate with Oklahoma City to find a way to drop those pick protections this year?
Well, here's how that looks like. Let's talk about the lottery specifically and where they sit, right? So first of all, we have to have a lottery party again. Now, if they fucking make the play-in, it's impossible to plan the fucking lottery party, but like, let's get bad enough to where we don't have to worry about it. All right. So the pick is top protected to OKC. As you mentioned, you could find a way to trade them something to remove those protections.
Do you remember why the pick went to Oklahoma City?
It was Horford.
Yeah.
Getting rid of Horford. Yeah.
Getting rid of Horford.
So
still cursing us after all these years.
Yep.
Son of a bitch.
So this is per Sixers Adam, like, given where they are in lottery position, the likelihood that they keep their pick. 1 and 2, 100%. Now, here's where it gets scary because of the new odds. Once you get past the first two, it's not 100% they even get the pick, right? Because it's not 100% that you're top 6. If you're third, you've 93% chance. Fourth, 81% chance. Fifth, 64% chance. Sixth, 45% chance. They're eighth right now, by the way. 7th, 31% chance. So right now they have a 26.3% chance of keeping their pick. If they were to drop to 9 or 10, that goes to 20% and then 13.9%. So as I said,
I think odds are they're going to stay at 8.
Well, so
the teams above them are too bad.
Yeah. So here's who is worse than them is the Wizards. They're not. It all seems impossible. They would have a worse record than the Wizards. The Raptors and the Jazz, both actively trying to be horrible. already only have 10 wins, may not get to 15 wins this year. So that's tough as well. And then you get the Hornets and the Pelicans at 10 and 11 wins.
Pelicans, those are interesting teams a little bit. If like, because I could see if Ingram gets healthy, Zion gets healthy, or like LaMelo starts getting hot. Like there's a chance that those teams are going like, we've been bad for too long and we're not going to like actively sit our guys because those guys have been hurt so much. I think there's a chance that one of those teams gets a little bit warm and could pass the Sixers.
Now Brooklyn plays hard, but like the problem is that they are really trying, and they're going to trade Cam Johnson. Yeah. They're going to trade Nick Claxton. So like that's a tough one to me. The Blazers, look, the Blazers, it's not like the Blazers don't have players. Yeah. You know, like the Blazers have some good players. I think that's a team that if we're in the situation where Embiid doesn't play again this year, and then they start, you know, as far as like resting our players, we can't do that. You could grab a game here and there with Paul George and Maxey until the last few weeks of the season where you can grab more, you know, of them. But I could see the Blazers and the Sixers hovering around the same spot if Embiid weren't to come back. And then right ahead of us are the Bulls and the Spurs. Now the Spurs are going to finish ahead of us. The Bulls are an interesting one, though, as you said, depending on what they do at the deadline. Yeah. If they get rid of teams at the deadline to try to lose.
Yeah, but I think all told, where they are now is likely where they will end up.
So yeah, and the Thunder pick, getting the protections off of that is tough because you can't. Would you send? I don't think they're doing it for a few seconds.
No, you know? I would send a player. I would say like if they want Yabusele for like someone whatever on their roster, and removing the pick protections this year, so they just get it next year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe it's a player.
So it'd become like unprotected next year is what you would do.
Or maybe you get it to be, maybe they open the protections up to 2 more. You know, 7th and 8th or something like that.
Yeah,
like
to me that's so weird to be like, well, give us 2 more spots. Like I would go like, okay, this year it is becoming lottery protected, right? And next year it's unprotected. Like that would be so it'd be Oklahoma City being like, okay, we get a player this year that we can use in Yabusele, and we definitely get a first round pick next year, right? And unprotected in a way that the Sixers could. You know, the Sixers could be just as bad next year and Embiid could get hurt again. So that's I'm
right,
moving.
You still have to give them a pick. They still have to get a pick.
Next year the pick protections are top 4 protected. Okay. So if you remove them entirely, right, then they're guaranteed to get it.
Okay. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast brought to you by Kornblau Kornblau, the official law firm of the Process. Well, don't we need this fella right now? Don't we all need to email Kornblau and find a way to have a class action suit against the Sixers to get this year back from our lives? Because the last good moment was Morey sending Mike the cap space jersey. Yeah. And boy, what a cursed moment that was. Yeah. Kornblau Kornblau, you hear about a lot of personal injury law firms, but they're not like Kornblau. Kornblau is better in a number of ways. First of all, is just going to be that you're going to be dealing with him. A lot of the personal injury law firms you see advertised, you're not going to be dealing with the person in there because some of them don't even practice law here. What they are is essentially referral services. They use a lot of advertising to get you to call them, and then they refer them to another law firm that you didn't even know about. Kornblau, we know that guy. Comes to Ricky events. The law firm's been there, has a record for 4 decades of getting great results for people in the Delaware Valley. Medical malpractice, their specialty, but everything from slip and fall to injured at work to car accidents, whatever it is. So you're going to be dealing with somebody who is going to make sure to give you that sort of personal connection, personal service, explain how it's going to work, and also get you what you deserve. Adam Kornblau, I trust him. I wouldn't tell you to reach out if I didn't. And we know that he's going to do the best job for you. The first office is there in Jenkintown. They have offices everywhere, so they could meet you wherever you are, or Kornblau will come to your home for that first conversation. Fucking house calls? What are we talking about here? All aspects of bodily injury. And if you if you need a lawyer for something else, I wouldn't be afraid to reach out to him. He's been known to take on cases that are interesting to him, and he has a great network of other lawyers as well. So any legal questions as well. We've had people say, hey, I'm having trouble with my landlord, and he always helps out. So if you think you might have a case, doesn't cost you anything, give him a call, shoot him an email, 215-576-7200, ask for Adam, or email Kornblau, that's Kornblau, Kornblau at kornblau.com, spell out the and, Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of the process. So that is the deal with the pick. Just I guess top line, I think the only two guys I've heard about in this draft are Cooper Flagg and Ace Bailey. Is this, and this is, by the way, it's a good plug for the Draft Council. Listen to the Draft Council, which may get more important right now. Is this considered beyond those guys a good draft or what it is? Okay.
Yeah, it was a great draft.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's still shaking out like who's interesting at different levels. It's more of a, like Ace Bailey at Rutgers is like a very projecty. So maybe not a guy that they would draft right away. Dylan Harper at Rutgers is probably more ready to play right now. Okay. But yeah, there's a ton of guys that are very, very interesting that I need to lock in on now.
Yeah.
More that
I'm back to your roots.
Back to my roots.
Yeah.
It is time.
Well,
perfect world. Perfect world. I mean, you don't draft for fit at this point. Like if you can get the top 6 pick in a really good draft, you don't think too much about fit. You just got to get the best player you think. But in a perfect world, I would love a power forward that can play up a little bit with or without Embiid. Again, Cooper Flagg would be great. Like
he really seems like he started off pretty slow, but he really seems like he's rounding into form as he.
Yeah, and even slow was like relative. It wasn't like it wasn't that slow, but it was
from a real question for
him, generational prospect level.
Real question for him, right? Is the shot and the body? Is that really the?
No, the body's good. Body good.
Okay.
Body gonna work.
All right, so shot.
But yeah, the shot is like. And I mean, he's crazy athletic. He's got handles. He defends his ass off. He's shooting 35% from three on like 3.5 attempts per game. He's shooting 81% from the line. I think the shot is going to be fine. Is it going to be like his best asset? Probably not. He's probably going to be like, Blake Griffin with a handle, with like a crazy handle. Is that
like what's the comp for you in the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, it's like that. As far as like a power forward that is like as athletic as he is, that can score like he can, that can move the ball. He's just a really smart player. He's a better defender than Blake ever was. Yeah, I mean, he's crazy. He's a crazy prospect, and I definitely will be salivating over him between now and the draft and the lottery, I guess.
So just, I guess from because we don't need to worry about wins anymore for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's why we're recording a podcast the morning of a game.
Yes, the morning of a game. And there's another game tomorrow, too. Who gives a shit? Right?
Not going to talk about those.
Nope. So I think, obviously, on the prospecty side, watching guys like Justin Edwards and Adem Bona will be more exciting for us. And I would assume that they will move Justin Edwards' contract into a regular NBA contract. It was interesting.
Probably right after the deadline, I would say.
It was interesting to see Nick Nurse say some of the things we were talking about, in that he just, from the very beginning, is in the right place all the time. And we've seen so many guys that we've loved here, you're watching just going, oh my God, why are you doing that? And that's almost never with Justin Edwards. And he's a really good shooter, it seems like. So,
which is interesting. Like that was not the book on him coming out of high school. Right. He was really like DeMar DeRozan-y a little bit. And so he was like a highly ranked high school prospect, but then goes to Kentucky and kind of didn't fit in really. Like he didn't deserve to have the ball in his hands all the time. And when he didn't have the ball in his hands, it was like, kind of, what's he doing? He helped a little bit more towards the end of the season as far as shooting goes and started to play a little bit better. But now it's like he really committed to, I shoot and I shoot quick. Guys are closing out on him and he's rising up fast with that lefty release. Mm-hmm. I forget who it was against, but he hit a shot with, it might have been, maybe it was Brunson or somebody, like right in his face. Like, it's nice to see a rookie not pump and like, okay, now I'm going to get into like dribble drive game. He can. He's got that nice little touch in his mid-range and stuff. But if he becomes a volume shooter that can also like attack a closeout and finish with like at the rim or in mid-range or just keep the ball moving, like he seems just like for his age much smarter than I would have given him credit for on the offensive end, and he's just got to keep trying on defense. And yeah, I think if you give him the deal that Ricky just signed, like that's a nice piece to get. And they've been hitting on those pieces lately. No, like it's between obviously Maxey was such a hit, McCain was has been a hit. Ricky was a hit for like an undrafted guy. Bona in the second seems like a hit eventually, like as far as the backup center goes, and Justin Edwards, like that's good young player value there. And they're going to need those guys as they keep trying to surround the main players with, veteran minimums and stuff.
There's not a lot to say about Paul George in this particular case, only that they're only going to, I would imagine you'll see a lot of, he's questionable tonight with groin tightness. I imagine you'll see a lot of that.
Please.
But
and his wisdom teeth, I think, are starting to hurt a little bit. I think he's got to get those wisdom teeth pulled.
Migraine.
Migraine
hurts. I feel like I'm turning into a Paul George Coper or whatever, but because again, I'll say to my eyes, he does not look cooked to me. But since Embiid stopped playing, since the foot injury thing, his usage has gone up from 21 to 27%. He is averaging 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. Field goal percentage is 46%. 3-point percentage is 41%. Now he's 100% from the line, but he's not getting to the line. I would say that is the biggest thing. But if those are the numbers that he had last year with the Clippers when he played really well, 22. It's 22, 6.7, and 4.1 is where he's at now. I think he never averaged 30 points in his career. He's never been a 30-point scorer. He's never been like a super dynamic, high usage offensive player. He's a really good offensive player that does a lot of things really well. I'm just going to keep pounding on the fact that I do not regret the Paul George signing. And I think he has plus value in trade. I think there are a lot of teams who are on the precipice of being contenders or are already contenders. Where I think if you called, fucking Milwaukee's talking about Jimmy Butler, you're telling me that Paul George wouldn't help in Milwaukee? I think Paul George has plus trade value at this point. It does not seem like a bad contract to me. And I also don't know what the other options were, but again, I think part of it is just coping, but Paul George has been mostly fine to me.
It's the problem is that they've been losing too many games,
Yeah.
Like that. I think the issue is with Maxey and Paul George and the rest of the roster. It's been well, if they were so good, why are they losing so many games? And I've also thought that, especially lately, P's been fine. For me, the issue is always going to be shot selection. He is not a perfect player. If he was a perfect player, the Clippers would not have let him walk. So you're dealing with somebody closer to the end of his career who is available in free agency, but he's still a really good player. And to me, the issue is shot selection, where it's seeing him, and he doesn't do this when when the team is at full strength, which they really haven't been this season. But seeing him go okay, I'm going to take a step back 19-footer with a guy right in my face, or I have a switch on a 6'1" guard and I'm just going to take a fadeaway over him. You would just like to see him get to the line more, get to the rim more. And that's what's preventing him from being an elite player anymore. But him still being the 30th best player in the NBA is still really good and will be helpful. And I also don't regret signing him. And I definitely don't think that they should be looking to trade him imminently. I think the idea, you see this project through to the end. You hope you get lucky with Embiid, and if that's still the plan, then PG is still the perfect kind of player you want with him, of someone that can get up threes, run some offense himself, and plays really good defense. And his defense has been great.
And you can look at the contract and say, I think when people look at contracts in the NBA, you forget like, they're like, well, but he's making a max. And that's true. But the truth is that guys that are of his caliber are either on rookie deals or making a max.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they're too valuable. You're not going to get that guy for,
No.
$26 million a year or something like that. So
you're gonna get Tobias for that much at this point.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. This year has been truly such torture, and there's something within me that has now at least gotten the go ahead to just look forward and go and be excited about what this team can be again. And if they can get the pick in the top 6, and I would do truly like whatever it took to get those OKC pick protections dropped, then you're really looking at this might be, there's just an argument to be made, and I'm kind of making it, and I'm definitely coping, but there's an argument to be made that this, for like everybody's health long term, if this season wasn't going to happen and all the previous seasons didn't happen, embarrassing losses, painful losses, disappointing losses in first or second round, then loading up with like one more guy, one like non-stressful year for everybody's mental health and the team's physical health. I just think it like could be good. It might still not be, obviously. If Joel is never healthy again and he's John Wall,
then that's bad.
Then that's bad. Then whatever. But the idea that we could just be fortunate with a stretch of Joel health, and also we got a top pick in a good draft, and like McCain has already been such a hit and he's still going to be on his rookie contract next year. It's just like we're just in a bad, right now we're in a bad position. This sucks. This is awful. But all of a sudden get me to June, get me to September, and you start going like, oh, this team, it's like Memphis last year. Like Memphis last year was a total nightmare. Like Ja had his thing, guys were getting injured left and right. Like the best player on the court was like Marcus Smart some nights, and now they're like the second seed in the West. Like I think sometimes there's just a cursed year, and you can just like throw it behind you, delete the tape, and get back out there and play as well as Memphis has been playing. I think that's the path, really.
The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast brought to you by LL Pavorsky Jewelers. For LL today, who was our first partner advertiser, I'm going to read this email from Matt because he's a new LL guy. This is from Matt to rightstoRickySanchez@gmail.com. Spike, Mike, Rebel, and the rest of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez team family. My fiance and I are proudly number 434 of Ricky listeners to get engaged with the help of LL. I must say, when I first started looking at engagement rings in December, I had heard the reviews on LL and thought to myself, all jewelers are the same. I'm sure he's great, but how much different can he be than the places here in DC near us? Well, I don't think I could have ever been more wrong. After visiting a local jeweler to us in DC who had one ring that sort of matched what I wanted and tried to sell me on that one, I scheduled a Zoom call with LL. I should add that place I went to before LL was a small family place with great reviews. I won't name them for obvious reasons, but it was not one of the big chains we all see commercials for. LL came to our Zoom discussion with the perfect setting for my fiance and seven different diamonds to choose from, all of which were absolutely incredible. After I settled on the right diamond for my fiance, LL was incredibly helpful and communicative, and the process to have the ring shipped down 95 to our doorstep was quick and seamless. I can't thank LL enough for his help through the process. My fiance is incredibly happy with the ring. Even a week later, she can't stop staring at it. I can't recommend him enough. He's the best, and we'll be going back to him for future jewelry needs. Please don't waste your time like I did. P.S. Our dog Bogey is a proud owner of 2 big Barker beds, so I guess we'll have to move to Kasabian Mortgage CS when we buy a house next year. Lastly, but certainly most important, Mike, hope you and your family and friends are safe out in LA with all the fires. There it is. That's the kind of experience you get. If you want to have that experience, you got to reach out to LL, 215-627-2252. Send him an email, lee@llpavorsky.com. You even tweet him @llpavorsky. He is a supporter of our charities that we support, Providence Animal Center and Mama T's Community Fridge, LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
Our first tanking season with sponsors. Let's see how it goes.
So, Maxey, real quick. I think one good thing, and I don't think you're going to see this until, you won't see this until January is over. But I think the good thing for Maxey is we can stop playing him 42 minutes a game.
Please.
like
Please God.
get that down to a more reasonable time. And I'm just hoping, and I know it's not easy, but whatever is going on with him from a mental standpoint, because he does look frustrated all the time. Like, I hope with the reality of what this season is becoming, sort of become a little more clear, he can get into a better place with that. And I don't think as far as gameplay, we're going to see from an offensive standpoint, maybe we see Maxey get back to what he was. We're not going to see any sort of jump, but I would love, I would just love to see a little more normal from him and not being top 10 in minutes in the league anymore now that the season doesn't matter. I guess for Maxey, that's all I'm looking for.
I totally agree. I don't think it's going to happen. I do think Nick Nurse is still going to play the wheels off him because that's what he has. I think it might be helpful once if they trade I don't know, Oubre or something for a combo guard with more years on his contract that's like young or something, that they can go like, oh, okay, here's somebody that we want to take a look at. Or Yabusele for something. But I think they certainly should play him less. I think there's no reason to play him as much as he's been playing.
It's a fucking note from above saying, hey, guy, we don't need to play him 40 minutes anymore.
Let's prioritize next season. But I don't know how well coaching staffs, especially Nick Nurse, handles that. It would be nice to see him just be normal and
level out a little bit.
He's just gripping so tightly to everything. And I think he went from fun kid, everything's a blast, to like, now I'm an adult and I'm like angsty. And I kind of need him to graduate to the like Jalen Hurts adult side of things, where he's like quoting whatever, like reading like poetry quotes and like idioms.
Listening to Al Green,
but just easing into that and having a little bit more balance to himself. But yeah, hopefully, I don't know what's been up. It definitely seems like something changed. Whether it's like he's
putting a lot
of pressure on himself with the contract. I'm not sure, but it definitely seems like something has changed within him, or at least his on court play. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know how he's going to handle this. He's never lost. He's not a guy that's ever been on like a losing team. So I'm sure that there will be like dark days and stuff, and they're going to be trading a bunch of his guys. So it'd be nice. That's going to be tough for him, but hopefully, like, there's some relief, and you just mix in a couple off days now and then to make sure he's not going too hard.
So that as far as who could get traded,
yes,
to me it is. I'm listening on everybody, but essentially the guys that we're looking at are everybody but Maxey, Embiid, McCain, Paul George. So
I would probably add Caleb Martin to that.
I'd listen.
I would listen, but you're looking for a guy that could help you next season, and Caleb is signed to 3 more seasons.
Right.
And it's a really fair deal. So, to me, it's number one is most trade value is probably Yabusele. It's going to be sad to move him because he's been so great, and we found him, we brought him back, and it's been delightful. And he's been the guy who's played. He's, I think, questionable for tonight's game. He's played all the games. He's been so consistent. He's been great. Got to trade him. Sorry. Maybe you get him. Maybe get him back in the future. Reunion in the future would be great. Let's hope for that, because he's going to get paid this offseason and it can't be by us. So Yabusele. 2 is Kelly Oubre, who I also love, who has also been great in his 2 years here, but he's expiring. He's got a player option next year that he very likely decline. He's definitely could help somebody. People will want him. Unclear what you can get for him, but like Daryl, work the phones. 3 to me is probably Drummond, which is why it's important for him to get on the court now and show that he is healthy and capable and good. This is an audition for him to try to go somewhere else.
By the way,
the toe thing.
Yeah, and this was spotted. I want to give this person credit. It was spotted by a Ricky listener who sent me an email. Where
He's
is
got
it?
while you find
here
that
we go.
he's got
Alex.
He's got $5 million on this year, and then a player option for $5 million next year. So if somebody needs a backup center that just wants a traditional guy, they could get a second round pick for that. Would absolutely play him a lot over the next 3 weeks, so that some team could go like, okay, yeah, we could use that.
So Alex emailed, and I think he's right because I watched it. So he said, I don't recall if this was discussed on the pod, but I'm very sure that Andre Drummond's toe injury happened in the Spurs game where he was ejected and then brought back into the game. At the 140 mark of the video below, I tweeted it if you want to see it, he kicks the boards, like the hockey board, with his left foot when he got thrown out of the game. He came back after the game, after his ejection was rescinded, but he was ruled out later in the game due to injury. He missed the next 3 games after the Spurs, came back for 2, and then missed the next 7 games. So it seems as if Andre Drummond sprained his toe kicking the boards on his way out for an ejection that didn't even stand.
I get it. I get it, dude. I fucking get it.
Okay, so Drummond next, and then after that is like,
yeah, I mean Eric Gordon.
Yeah.
If somebody wants a vet that he's been shooting better lately, maybe somebody that appeals to somebody. Yeah, if you can get anything for Reggie Jackson or Kyle Lowry, then God bless, trade him.
Ricky Council.
Yeah, I mean Ricky signed to a fair contract that like maybe you just give Ricky a ton of time and try to make it work. I don't think anyone's giving you anything of value for Ricky right now. Mm-hmm. And maybe you just keep him because he's Maxey's friend and he'll be entertaining. We've wanted Ricky to play on a process team. This will now be a process team, so let him operate and do his thing and be a kooky crazy guy. But yeah, all those guys that you could trade. The Sixers are now not, because of the Harden trade, the Sixers are not at a massive pick deficit. They got obviously this year's protected pick to OKC, which will hopefully transition to next year's pick. And then they have a pick to Brooklyn in if it this year, right now it's 2027, but if the pick is conveyed next year, then it would be the Brooklyn pick would be 2028. And they're getting a pick from Oklahoma City, Houston, or LA. The worst pick of those will come for 26. And then they got a 28 first round pick from the Clippers and a 29 first round pick swap from the Clippers, which are both very good. So they're not at a pick deficit. That's like coming and going. They will have, if they can somehow get I doubt any of these guys are going to draw a first round pick. The best I can hope for is loosening those pick protections for the Thunder. But they're going to have stuff to stock up and go after it. And I just feel a little bit grateful that the season's demolition happened in the first half of the season before they traded more picks to go all in this season, rather than the second half of the season when they would have gone like, oh, well, I wouldn't have made that trade if I had known that all this fucking shit was going to go wrong.
Right.
So to me, they get to keep the powder dry. Maybe you can add a couple picks into the pipeline, whether it's seconds or interesting contracts or whatever. Oh, I wouldn't trade KJ Martin. I said this last podcast. I would not trade KJ Martin because he's got an $8 million unguaranteed next year. You can guarantee that, and then you can trade him as an $8 million expiring next year. Also, he's been pretty good, and he's gotten better, and I would like to see what else you got from him. And if you can give him a bigger role the rest of the season, maybe he's an interesting player going forward. Because like that team, the Maxey McCain, Caleb Martin, Paul George, Embiid team is just a little small, and KJ Martin would the kind of thing you're looking for from a power forward in that ecosystem is kind of what KJ does. And so I would like to see if he can keep improving with playing time once he's healthy, and whether you keep him as an interesting player next year or eventually trade him as an expiring. I think that's worth finding out and not just moving just to move this season. So
before we go, I started reading an email a couple weeks ago, and then I realized I read the guy's name and I wasn't supposed to, and I had to stop. But we got a note from him saying that it was okay because the situation he was in had gone past, and it's okay. This came from Antonio, Spike, Mike, CJ, and Scott O'Neill. I'm graduating medical school in May of this year, and I'm currently undergoing a very stressful 3-month period of interviews and residency positions. At this point, I have interviewed at 20 plus residencies. I'm basically a professional interviewee at this point, and no question can stump me. My most recent interview entailed about 2 hours of interviews in 20-minute segments. I killed all of them, seamlessly answering any and every question the doctors were throwing at me. By the last interview, I was burnt out, just trying to make it to the finish line with a smile on my face. That's when the program director asked me, "What non-medical book have you read recently, and what lessons did you learn from it?" I should have seen this question coming, but my brain was almost entirely fried at this point in the day. I also don't think I've ever read a book for fun. I scrambled to come up with something I could confidently talk about. That book was none other than Be Where Your Feet Are by Scott O'Neill. I confidently discussed how much I learned from Scott's successes and failures as CEO of Harris Blitzer, owner of the Sixers, and most importantly, a loving husband and father. The program director nodded intently, wrote the book title down, and the interview concluded. You guys shitting on that book so much may have saved my interview at this residency program. Surely if I had sat there a few seconds longer with a blank stare on my face, he would have realized that I hadn't read a legit non-medical book in years. So thank you, Spike. Thank you, Mike. Most importantly, thank you, Scott O'Neill.
That's very funny. Read a book for fun.
Occasionally, yeah.
You should read a book for fun.
Yeah,
There's a lot of value there.
I always read books. I have trouble reading books normally because I fall asleep because of when I have to read the book. Yeah. But on vacation every year, when I take a week of vacation every year, I always read 2 books. Yeah. And there's some great books out there.
Book is good and bookstore is good. I went to 2 bookstores this week, just sort of randomly while I was killing time. And the bookstores are the best. Shout out to bookstores.
Shout out Midtown Scholar Bookstore in Harrisburg, who has been a partner of ours. Shout out the coolest bookstore I've ever been to was Powell's in Portland.
Yeah, that's
It's like fucking monstrous bookstore.
Yeah, it's going.
But yeah, there's a few cool like used bookstores around in Philly, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I'm not a good reader. I can only read nonfiction. I have real trouble with fiction. I think I've probably only read 4 or 5 fiction books over the last 20 years, but yeah, there's some interesting stuff in there.
I love it all, man.
Books. Yeah.
Good books. Come on. The smell? Love the smell of a book.
Oh, yeah. Smell of a new book, too.
It's great.
Sometimes I have one book that I bought at a used bookstore. It smells like patchouli oil.
Yep.
Which I don't think people use patchouli oil anymore, do they?
No, but it's used. It's used from the past.
Yeah. All right. Well, here we are in a different era of this season, but the pressure's off, guys.
It's gone, dude. It's gone.
Yeah.
Dude, but coming into the season, I was fucking wearing heartbeat monitor. I was checking to make sure I was staying all good during playoff. I was getting ready for it. I don't even need it.
Nope.
I'm cool as a cucumber now.
Just see how Justin Edwards is doing.
Let's all relax. The Eagles are going to be in an intense playoff run. The Phillies have been in intense playoff runs for several years now, and hopefully for more to come. It's like, it's just kind of nice to have a year off for everybody, for the fans, for the players. And if they can get that pick, then this will ultimately be like a tremendous win of a season.
Yes, I agree. If they can get a win.
I think so. If they get the pick, then this will be a win of a season. Absolutely.
I love we have positive Mike back. I think because the pressure's off.
The pressure was bad. I didn't like it.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk to you next time. Probably after a game that doesn't fucking matter. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, or before a game that doesn't matter.
Well, who cares?
Yeah, you know the case.